Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining me. Let me just double check that volume. There we go. Today, what are we doing? We are building an API. So we're going to start from scratch. We are going to build out an API. I had a crazy idea for a project, so I'm going to build it. And you can come along for the journey. So we're building an application at the moment. Let me just take you to it. It is quite simple. It is called Achievable. And the idea of it is that organizations, places where you work, can award you achievements. You could leave that job and you could go somewhere else, and those achievements go with you. So it's almost like a continual professional development. You could get an achievement for 100% test coverage or really good code or anything like that, and you get awarded that. You can show that. You get your own profile which is all on it, and yeah, it's a little bit of fun. Hello everyone in the chat, thank you for joining me. It's been a few weeks since I last streamed actually, and I missed it, really missed it. So what are we going to do? Firstly, I need to build a teeny tiny little bit of a UI, which we'll get into. We just need to be able to create organizations. We can already generate API tokens because I'm using Laravel Jetstream to make it just easy. I usually build my own stuff for this part, but we want to focus on the API aspect, right? So I don't want to go into too much UI building because it's probably not why you're here, because I suck at it. There's better people to show you how to do that. So what I'm going to do to start with, I have got my project. I've got Vite running. I'm running using Artisan Serve. I've got my database all set up. It is using, SQLite locally. Should be. Let's just migrate fresh and seed. We should be good. And yes, we are good. We've got stuff in there. You don't mind watching me build front. It makes, to be honest, if you watch me build a front end application, you're going to feel a lot better about when you do it. That's the beauty of it. So I'll walk you through the kind of database design a little bit. We've got various models. A user, of course. I like to use ULIDs. I find UUIDs are a little bit kind of whoa when you look at it in your URL bar. So ULIDs a little bit more friendly. not so much, of course, but I like them. They look cool. So we've got a user. We've got a name, email, password, simples. They can have many organizations. So the idea of that is that you as a person could have many businesses where you award achievements, basically. Yeah. I can go through events and listeners. I might even need them for this. So yeah, a user can have many organizations. That is like a company. Organizations can be verified, so that is like a trusted source for those achievements. Got a name, an email, and a domain. So the purpose of storing the domain is that later on I want to kind of override the authentication and say, okay, so anybody who signs up with this domain, automatically add them as a member of the organization. Make it clean and easy. Name and email, so we can kind of send notifications, name of the company, who owns that company. Companies can have members, and a member is basically anybody. Like, it can be the employer, it could be the employee, it could be a manager. Unguard, no, go away with your unguard. Go away with your unguard. Don't make me get swords out and start unguarding you. So yeah, the idea of the member here is that they have a role. A role is just an enum. It can be a manager, an employee right now. Really simple. Could extend it later on, what organization it belongs to, what user it might be. When that person joins the company, this is where like a company would go through onboarding and okay, so this is when this person joined, and when someone leaves, you just go, okay, this person exited at this point, done. They then don't display for that organization, but it's all in the background. And then a user can, an organization have many achievements. So organizations can create their own achievements. They give them a name, a description, and they can upload their own icon. I'm probably going to do some kind of validation around that so I can force SVG, so it's fun. But the idea is that, companies can make it fun. They can, design their own SVG, achievement icons to really show they care about their devs. They can upload all of them, manage them nice and easily, and then they can be awarded. So basically, they say, okay, award this achievement to this user. Here's some notes, done. They can't take it away, they can award it, and that's all. Yes, this is super dangerous. We are performing some harmful stuff today. So let's get started, right? How long can you go without writing down named arguments? I can't. I just can't. I've got to do it. Sometimes they're not supported, so I won't, but most of the time, always. So that's the database structure. We've got a user, an organization, member, which is a membership to an organization. Organizations have many achievements, and those achievements can be awarded to a user. It's relatively simple. There's nothing too complicated about the domain, the data structure, or anything like that. It's all simple. I've got some code already pre-written because I was having fun last night. So what we're going to do first off is we're just going to create a way on the UI to create an organization so that I can start playing with the API a little bit. Right, first off, we need to go to our routes, and let me take you through how I've structured this. So if I come to my root service provider, here is that rate limiter. So here is all of this magic. So all of my API routes are grouped under routes API routes.php. Web is under routes web routes.php. Anything to do with broadcasting is under routes sockets routes. Let me clean that up. I don't like comments. Comments waste space. Then obviously web. We've got our web routes. We've got a nice simple thing going on here. Let's just clean this up. We can just make that a static function, and then that can just return that. This is the component, and here are the props. I might fix this, I might not. This is, for this stream, somewhat irrelevant, if I'm honest. So we'll think about it. We'll think about it. Yeah, broadcasting. No, so what I'm going to look at doing is using server-side events for broadcasting instead of anything else. He's just trying to change my UI to dark mode. Oh, wait a minute. I'll make you happy. Wait 2 seconds. It doesn't work. I've got it locked on light mode. Static. No, it's all about static closures. When you don't need that object context, use a static closure. Do yourself a favor. Make it a little bit better. Right, okay, so here's auth, sanctum, jetstream, session, verified, middleware, mumbo jumbo. This is all of the kind of authenticated routes. Obviously, there's a dashboard, which is just rendering a component. And then we've got the route prefix for organizations. As organizations, load in this. So if I come to organizations, currently we just got this list controller, which if I log in, come to here, it just displays this. It should get a list of organizations if there are any. Come over to view, come down to here, organizations, there are none. So if I come to this list controller, all it's doing is it's using a fetch organization query, getting the authenticatable user. I can make this read only. I can remove that excess space because it looks ugly. It's not the 1990s. Then we're all rendering this component, set the organization prop to resource collection by pulling in this. And this is really, I hate having to do this, but it says to use that, but it's mixed. So PHP Stan will complain. Then we're just going to include the members, user, and the user, and then we're just going to get them. We're not going to worry about any sort of pagination. Sorry, I've actually got a brand new microphone, a Shure something or other, but my mic arm hasn't arrived, so I can't actually use it without holding it. So, you know, oops. I'll try not to say anything too loud because I know I get overexcited. So what we want to do is we just want to be able to create one quickly. So we're going to go, we're going to do a root get, create, name, create. Then we're going to come down here. We're going to go make controller, web, organizations, create controller. Oh, wait. No, I'm not. Web organizations, delete that. Invocable and create a pest test for it at the same time. So then this can then be the create controller. And we want to simplify that one. This is just going to return an inertia response. Inertia render. The component we want to use is organizations, create, and we don't need props for this. So we can just get this. Let me open up the stubs a minute because that shouldn't be displaying. That shouldn't be in there. Right, so now I can come down to resources, JS, pages, organizations. We're going to create a new create.view. We're going to use a script setup. I'm not using TypeScript because that's just me. Template. I'm just going to kind of copy. I don't actually need that. You can tell I just used Tailwind UI for this, right? Right. So what we want to do is just take this UL and say no, thank you. Organizations, create a new organization. Don't need that, but what we do need is the layout. What's that component? Module, yeah. Interested? Not. All right. So now I'm not even going to add a link. Stop taking screenshots. Hotkeys, you silly sausage. Create a new organization. Great. So now we just need to create a form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to Tailwind UI. I'm just going to go to forms, form layout. I'm just going to copy one because I'm super lazy. We're just going to grab, which one do we want? This one. I'm just going to grab the entire form and I'll remove what I don't need. Icons probably won't need, so we can get rid of that later. This is not how I'd usually write an inertia app, by the way. But for the interest of speed, I'm just going with it. Photo icon, so I don't actually want anything to do with photos. So I can delete that. User circle, don't really care about that either. So I can save that, come back to here, come back to my app, and haha, here it is. TypeScript. I don't have time for TypeScript. I'm trying to do an API here. Come on. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to set const form to be use form. our form is, this is creating an organization. So we know we need a name, an email, and a domain. We're going to enforce that. So a name, an email, and a domain. I'm not writing any tests right now because I'm just too busy. Got too much other stuff to do. Okay, and we know we're going to want to submit this form, so we can say const submit equals form dot post. Eventually, this will go to a root of organizations dot store, not dot comma store. Come on, use your naming convention, Steve. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to preserve the state and preserve the scroll, just in case errors come back. Come down to my form and v on submit event. This is my naming convention. Forms is submitted, so I always use submit. Hey, Mohammed, how are you doing, buddy? No, I do like TypeScript, but I just don't have. Yeah, this is an API that I'm trying to build. I'm only building a form because I need to. I might swap to TypeScript later on once I've kind of got this up and running. But other than that, so details. This is the public information about your organization. So all looking good so far. Grid, personal information. Let's just don't need that. Probably don't need notifications. So we could probably just go boop. No thanks. We don't need a cancel button. Come back to here. Why is this dying? Root not found, most likely. Yep. So let's go back to our organizations and let's just create that root quickly. We're going to do a post root. The name for that is going to be store. So a make store controller. Then make a going to make a request, a web request, organizations. We're going to create a store request. Done. So this can now just be linked to the store controller. Now loads. Martin's calling you about your Windows computer. Cheers, Martin. I'm on Mac. Store request, all looking good. Let's come over. That is working. That is working. We want a public function. We want to build out our payload. The rules. So we know we need a name. This is a web validation. It could change in other places. So required, it's going to be a string. We want to set the min to 2 and the max to 255 because of the sort of column it is. Then we've got an email is required. It should be an email. We need a rule from validation. We want it to be unique on the table for organizations using the column email. I'm really short domain. Create organizations. Domain is nullable. So what we're going to do for that one is nullable string min2 max 255, and we kind of want this to be a URL. That's a validation, all looking good. So that will validate. This should do a redirect response. Once that is done, we're going to want to create it. So let's come up here and say public function construct. We're going to pull in our process. Not that button. So we're going to have a private read-only, create new organization process. And what we want to do is this process run. The payload that I want to send is a request payload. And then I will return a new redirect response where the URL is the action for the list controller, and that is it. So if I go to there, that should be a process payload. Come down to my domain because that's where I created this process. Create new organization. This should be a create organization payload. So come to here. This should return that. So return new one of those. We've got email and user that we need to pass through. So email is going to be this email, I assume. Let me just make that read only. Store request. So the email is going to be this string. Email to string. The user is going to be this user. That's going to complain though because it's not a string. I'm going to have to string valid for now. What else do we have? That is all we need. That will create the payload. That will send the payload. This will handle the payload. That is all set up. Now back to actually submitting the form. So what do we need? We are going to need a website. Let's stick one before this with a name. So we've got a name. Oh. Organization name. Get rid of that. Type text. Name. Name. Then we're just going to vmodel. Form dot name. Grab that. I'm not going to add the validation stuff because I just don't. So we'll put the email domain. Oh no, we're going to use email first. Email. May as well do it in the order that I need it. Type is email. Hey. That needs to be email. Placeholder for the company name is going to be the wall. Email will be john.snow@thewall.cold. What's next? We need another one of these. We have a domain. So we're just going to put domain there. That's the email domain. That's the text. That's domain. That's domain. That's domain. And for that, we can just say the wall.cold. Nothing works incorporated. You've been reading my code before. Submit. It's going to be save. And awesome. We have got something. So, organization name. Well, I work at Treble. Email is steve@treble.com. Email domain is treble.com. Save. Let's see what's going wrong. So, save. Why are you no saving? That's all within the form. V on submit. Text. Type submit. Oh, stuff the padding. I'm not doing a UI stream. Inputs, type submit. Value is save. Let's clear that out. Focus on fetch. Treble. Steve at Treble. Treble.com. Why you no save? Why you no click? I could grab the email from it, but I want the ability to override that. I'll probably do that client side to pre-fill the domain from what's entered and allow people to override it. I don't care about horizontal scrolling. This is a UI that I don't care about right now. Come on. Okay, so why is this not doing it? Let me just restart Beat. So, Treble. Steve at Treble. Treble. Oh, wait. The name field is required. I'm sending the name. Form post, preserve state, name, email, domain, store controller. Okay, so if I just use a standard request right now and just check what I'm getting back. Treble. Steve at Treble. Treble.com. Save. Clear. Save. Console. 500 service. Yeah. I'm getting a 500 out. Oh, it's been a while. Wrong file. Okay. Ignore all of that. Just come down to storage, logs. Don't care about that. Nothing is in the logs. Why is that even coming up right now? Is it using some sort of precognition that I'm not aware of? Treble. Steve at Treble. Treble. Save. Where's my log? Show me my log. Nothing's coming up in my log. Store request. Drop the request. You know what? Something funny is going on, so I'm just going to do it my way. Hey Tinker, let's get back to the API, right? App, models, organization, factory. Actually, no, I'm going to do this in the Cedar. I'm going to make it easy. So here's the user. Then we're going to create an organization for this user. Factory, create. I'm going to give it the name of Rebel, the email of company email, rebel.com, and the domain is going to be rebel.com. Yeah. We're going to say for the user, and then what we're going to do is we're going to say member factory for organization. So does that accept more than one parameter? No. For user, create role. We're going to create this one as a manager. So let's try this again. Awesome. That worked. Stuff the UI. I haven't got time for that. Right. Okay. So members, am I now in the membership table? I am. Good. So close all of that. I'm not interested. Name on the front end isn't called name on the front. I swear it was. Let's log in. Organizations. I have got treble. There's just me. That is perfect. That's all I needed. Right, so now I can come over to the API tokens, and what I want to do is create a test one with all of the permissions. Give me my API key, you. Grr. Right, okay, so let's start building our API. In some, no, not iOS app installer. I don't even know why I've got that. I don't like iOS. Grr. Okay, cool. So let's come to our environment. Let's add our API token to our environment for now. This is going to be 127.0.0.1 using port 8000. Did that save? Please. Oh, you bugger. 127.0.0.1 port 8000. Yeah, I don't care. Then we're going to add the token. Done. Right. So let's start by doing a URL. Send that. We're going to accept JSON. Cool. So we want to start by going to the API. We will be using versioning. And let's say the first thing we want to do is organizations. See what organizations we belong to. Can I zoom in on this for you? Zoom in. Is that better? Is that, yeah, that's good enough. Right, okay, so let's actually start building the API. 34 minutes in that I was meant to start. So, roots. We got API, we got roots. Not interested in that, really. So, we're going to have a root. Then we are going to prefix it with v1 as v1. Then we're going to group. And what we want to do is load this indifferently. So roots API v1 roots.php. So now we just need to create that. New directory v1 routes.php. Fantastic. Prefix. Organizations as organizations. Group. Base path. Routes. API. v1. Organizations.php. Let's just simplify that. That is saved. That is saved. I can now create the organization routes. So, I'm using my own approach to DDD. It works for me. And let's simplify that one. And we can start creating some controllers. So before I do that, let me just run my tests. Make sure nothing's failing. Good. So make a new controller under API v1 organizations index controller. This is invocable, and I want to create a new test. So here I can just say, hey, give me my index controller. Perfect. So what we want to do, root, middleware, auth, sanctum, and usually add throttle, but local development I'm not going to right now. Then we'll group. Then we're going to have a callback in here where we're registering all of our routes. There we go. Here's our authenticated routes. So now if I a route list, accept vendor, API v1 organizations, done, perfect. Organization, index controller, this is going to return a response. So come back to here. The root could API v1 organizations. Let me just API v1 organization. That's not what we want. Unauthenticated. Perfect. Right, headers. Query headers. Add another header. We can say authorization is going to be bearer token. Body return no response. Excellent. So that is the token I created manually. This is all the good stuff. We always want to accept JSON. Don't really need the description. We can do like connection, keep alive. That's another header that's useful. So what we want to do here is we want to get all the organizations for the authenticated user, which we've already done in our UI controller, right? So come down to web, list, we've got fetch user organizations. So we can grab this, come over to our API here, add that. Hey, Mark, how you doing, buddy? And what we want to do at this point is, what's that got? User and includes, cool. Okay, so all we want to do at this point is look at how we are going to respond. So responses, API, v1, no, don't even need that, v1, and we're going to say V1. We'll stick with that. We're going to create a new collection response. This is going to implement responsible, which will return a response. This is going to be a JSON response and return new JSON response. Now we just need to pass some information into it. So public function construct. When we create our new collection response, we are going to have a private read-only resource collection. We're going to have a collection, private read-only. Have I installed it yet? No, so I'm going to install it now. So composer require, treble, not Laravel, API tools with all dependencies. Make sure all of that is gone in. Oh, looking good. So that's indexing. Thank you very much. Status. As status, and we're going to default to the OK status. So our data is going to be this collection. Our status is going to be this status value. So if we use this to start with, make that read only, keep it clean and simple. What we can do is return a new collection response. This is going to return responsible. The collection that we want to send across, we need to create. But before I do that, I need to composer require Tim McDonald JSON API. Let's see what versions there are available. Okay, so let's go to GitHub and go see what the latest version for this is. Come to GitHub. JSON API, got 12 releases, V1 beta 4. That's the one we need. Ooh. Complaining because of that. Keep alive. It basically just you keep the connection alive between requests, so that the server lookup is quicker, basically. Right. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to go make resource API V1 organization resource. Let's just comment this out. Then we can say organization resource collection, where the resource is this query handle, where the user is the string value of this user get auth identifier. And what do we want to include with this? Nothing right now. Then we can just call get, and we should be good. We can just delete that. We don't want to include additional relationships right now. We can look at refactoring that later. So this is going to extend the JSON API resource, which means that can go. All of that can go to attributes. This returns an array. So if I open up the organization next to it, what do we want to have? We want to have name as this name. We're just going to do it relatively simply right now. We can refactor this part later. Domain. Keyboard, come on. What else do we want? Verified this. Verified. Right, that's going to complain because those aren't available. So I always do this. Property read string, email, property read string, the domain, and the property read Boolean for verified. That resolves all of that one. What I also like to do is I like to add when the organization was created. I have something for that already, which I will show you shortly. So we have a property read. I always use the Carbon interface for the created app. So this date resource, all it does is it has human, timestamp, and string. It keeps things really nice and clean. It means that on the client side, I can either just display it, I can get the timestamp to do math, or I can get the to-date time string to add it to a time element, and it's just nice and easy, right? So here's our organization. So now if we come back to here, we get our organizations. So as you can see, if I scroll that up, we've got all of this all looking good. So relationships. Let's look at defining our relationships. So to relationships, let's go have a look at the docs to see the best approach for doing this. Resource identification, that is all good. Request user, it's its resource, blah, blah, blah. Cool. So what we want to do further to relationships, this wants to return an array. Yeah, I don't like using the mix-ins. I like to be a bit more specific sometimes. So we're going to set owner, and we probably want to create a new resource for user, member, achievement, and award. Keep it easy there. So new user resource, where the resource is this user. Is that how they recommend doing it? Resource links, identification, resource relationships. Using when loaded is an anti-pattern apparently. Empty solution. Okay, cool. So this user. So if I come up here, I can say a load of gibberish apparently. User sorted. Members. So we can then have property read. We're going to have a collection for members. We're going to member resource collection, where the resource is this members. And then we will also have the achievements are available. Achievement, resource collection, where the resource. Yeah, it does take a little bit of setup to get this working, but it is worth it. Hello everybody who's joining. Thank you for joining. Again, so property, collection, achievements. That's good. So the user resource. Let's open up user and see what we want to add on that one. So we're just going to have name, this name, name. Come on, Steve, learn to spell. This email created, again, a new date resource that I create, which is more of a kind of a global thing. Resource, this dated at, then I can, again, property read string name, property read string email, property read carbon interface for the created at. That is all linked up. That is perfect. Member resource. So if I come back and look at members, oh, wait a minute. Come back to, yes. Why is this complaining? String callable, but returns. What am I doing differently? I'm doing the exact same thing. It's just PHP stand being a little bit of a wonky donkey. Okay, cool. I can live with that. So, JSON API resource. Then we can just delete that. 2 attributes. I'm only going to do the relationships on the organization right now and fill the others in when I get to needing them. So, a member has got a role. This role, joined at, new date resource, where the resource is this joined at, and then we can do exited. Let's just plot that at. Another new date resource, where the resource is this exited at. I'm going to add a little bit more in a second. Property read role for role. Property read carbon interface joined at. Property read carbon interface exited at. So that returns an array. It is complaining because I've not done that. Let's now do that again. Awesome. Is that now load in? Cool. So include equals members. We got members, ID, no meta information. Awesome. User. Or is it owner? Hey. API user resource. So I come back to up here a second. What user resource was I using? Where is it? User resource. JSON API resource. Grab that. And we're just going to replace this. I thought I hadn't done that, but I wasn't 100% sure. This returns an array. And send it again. Owner, members, owner. Fantastic. Are you using any static? Yes, I have got PHP stan. So if I just run composer stan, it's going to do lots of failures because it's got lots of stuff that I've not checked. I'd expect lots of failures anyway. Yeah, 7 errors. That hasn't been fixed. Not a lot of stuff's been fixed yet. Mixed, lots of mixed organization. This is something that you build up to. You get what you need, you test it, you polish it, and you move on. So we are getting what we expected. Read-only class. Member resource is good. All of this is good. We can get all organizations that belong to said user easily. Next, what's the next thing you'd typically want to do? Oh, is a JSON Laravel? Yes, it is a complete implementation of JSON API, which is why I use it. Oh, what am I using? PHP stan. I'm on level 9. So like if I drop this to something kinder, like a level 6, probably get less errors. Let's have a look. Found 2 errors. But I don't compromise. I stay on level 9, and that's it. Right, okay, so actually, we no longer need Vite running because I'm not doing anything with that. Let's test it. Let's test that endpoint, right? That's an important step. So if we come down to tests, feature, HTTP, API, index controller. Right, okay. Let's start testing our API. What's important? I should probably do a stream about static analysis. Yeah, always declare strict types. One thing I know I need to do before I go too far is I need to declare another namespace for what I want to do next. I'm going to add it here. Probably got a typo, but hey ho. Source viewable create. Then just do a quick composer. I'll do an update in case there's any dependencies that also need updating. So inside achievable, I'm going to create attributes. I'm going to add a description attribute, and I will show you why very shortly. An attribute, public function instruct. We want a public read-only string for the description. We can make that whole class read-only, and we're going to do that. So now if we come down to our domain enum role, we can add a manager is someone who awards achievements. If you read one of my latest Laravel news articles, you'll see this. And so we can say an employee employee. Yeah, E is someone who receives achievements. I am awful at spelling. Right, so then what I want to do is make a new resource called a role resource. Open the role resource. And what is going to be passed into it is a role. I'm going to pass a role into it as the resource itself. Next, let's go to laravelnews.com. What did I do wrong? Typos galore. I need to stop with the typo script, don't I? Right, using attributes to add value. Yeah, I did all of that, did all of that, and can access attributes. This is what I need. Something like this. And I want to add that to my role, or achievable attributes, concerns, can access attributes, and this is a trait. So what do we want to do? We are going to go through these abilities. No. Key. Not right now. We're going to pull in the back denum. We're going to pull that in. We're going to pull that in. And we're going to pull that in. That should be everything. So that on our role, use can access attributes. Close all those tabs. Open up our member resource for the API. And then this is going to be a new role resource where the resource is the role itself. You can click through to that. And when we cast this to array, we can have name as this resource name, the value as this resource value, and the description as this resource. Let me just open role again. What we called it, description. Wait, let me just have a quick look at this. Don't actually want to pass that in, so I can just say this name, this value. Don't want to make it static. Come back to this description. Enums can have traits. So now if I come back to here, obviously we've got members, but we can't see them yet. So let's make a quick endpoint so you can see that before I go into my testing aspect. API v1. What we then want to do is organizations are going to want members. So we're going to want a prefix. Nope. Prefix. Organization. Then we're going to want to have the ID. Then we want to say, give me the members as members. Group. And within here, we will do base path, groups, API, v1, members.php. Let me make sure things are spelt correctly. There we go. Inside here, then we can go, there's our members routes. So at this point, we just want to be able to get all members for an organization, right? So we're just going to have an index. Let me make a new controller, make controller, hey. And we are going to call this organizations members. Perfect. So now if I simplify that one, I can add in my new index controller and say simplify that one, come over to it. This is going to return responsible. We want to get all members, so we're going to perform a query soon. Then we'll return a new collection resource where the collection is a member resource for the API collection. Don't need to add a status because it's default, and then this resource will be something shortly. So yeah, no, splitting routes out like this really just helps me stay organized. I can see what's going on. I can go click to see specifics. Then when I come down to there, it's like, okay, so how many versions do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, cool. Each one's split out, and it's just, yeah, it's nice. It's nice and easy to work with. Right, index controller. So what we want to do is we want to get all members for a specific organization. That's going to happen in a few places. So if I come down to source, infrastructure, queries, we can create a new query and we can just say fetch members for organization. Yep, contract. That's an interface. So what we want to do is public function. This is something that will be handled. We'll have a string as an organization, and we are going to return a builder here. So if I grab that, come over to my domains, create a new query, get rid of the contract, tell it implements a contract, add that, and before I forget, I add it to the binding service provider so that it's bound to the controller. Fetch members for organization, which means it'll just do its magic, basically. So what I want to do here is just return a member query where the organization ID is the organization. That is all this part cares about. This part does not care about anything other than that. So it's nice, simple, and just works. So I can create a constructor. Then we have a private read-only, pull in that contract. That's our query. This accepts the ID. What we can do then is say organizations is this query handle, where the organization is the ID. And we're just going to get all of them right now. We can worry about pagination later. So organizations. That works. That is all we need to do. We can go, we can and we will go further than this, obviously. So if I come back to here and we're just going to add a new request. So let's just grab that, come over to here and say our base URL, API, v1, organizations, members, Veep manifest not found, no problem, because now I can go and say accept application JSON. We're unauthenticated, so we can add another one to the authorization using our bearer token. Call to diff for humans on null. Okay, so that's on a date resource coming from what is it coming from? Collection response. Router. It's coming from our most likely our member resource. Member resource. JSON API one. That's fine. So this is where we go. If we have one of those, return that. Otherwise, return null. This exited that. And we're good. So, yeah, I need to, work on it. It's kind of like a splitted repository pattern. So it's basically CQRS without the command bus or query bus. That is kind of the principle behind it. So as you can see, I've got members. This member has not exited. They joined 2 years ago. There's a timestamp and there's the exact date. Here is their role. They're a manager. And it says that a manager is someone who can award achievements. So we can go one step further and say, okay, so we want to know who this user is. Relationships is not configured. So member resource to relationships. This is going to return an array. Let's drop that array in there and we can say that the user in question is a new user resource where the resource is this user. And this part isn't needed for it to work, but it's what I'm doing. There we go. We've got a user, and there's that user themselves. Quite easy to do, right? Hello, Laravel View Media. Quite a cool name. So what I'm going to do is we're going to call this one get members for org. Get orgs for user. Whoop, that way around. So we can get all of our organizations for said user, and we can get all the way around. So do we want to expose everyone? Not likely. So we need a policy. So we can look at make policy. We're going to make a versioned policy because we might do it differently in the future. We might do it differently on the web compared to the API, depending on how we allow access. So this policy is going to be for the member policy. I believe we can say like model is member. So member policy. Yes, it works. So view any. view a specific one. So at this point, we want to say, okay, is this user this person, basically? So that's the authenticated user, and this has a user ID. So what we can do simply is say, if is that the same as member is it the same as that, basically? So if we go to the auth service provider, we can register this. Which way round does this need to go again? Policies, class string. Can never ever remember. Let's go to the docs and let's just do a quick search for the policy. Model policy name. So member, class, user is member. Is that not another query? Return user is. Get key, get connection. Determine if two models have the same ID belonging to the same table. Okay. Oh, I'm going to have to shoot soon because the wife has gone on the school run. I'm going to keep it like that because I know that's very specific. But also at the same time, no, I'm going to extend it later on. Let's just delete the others because they're not important right now. We'll build up the policies. So in our index controller here, what we want to do is we want to say, I'll use a facade for now, gate policy class check view. No, it's definitely the wrong place, isn't it? Member policy, that's okay. I'll have a look at the best way to do that for the next time. But I've got to shoot. I'm going to go make sure my daughter is doing okay now. The wife has left. We've done well so far. We've done some routing, controllers, some querying. We watched me struggle with the front end for a little bit. We're going to pick this up next week, maybe even tomorrow. Let me know if you want to see some more tomorrow or if you'd rather see some next week. But thanks for tuning in. It's been really fun to write some APIs again. Give me a shout. Next time, we're going to add treble as well, obviously where I work, to start having a look at our API to see if there's any kind of anything that stands out to do with our performance, our security, accessibility of our API, and start building out our open API spec for usage. So join me next time. It's been fun. Thank you very much. If I don't stream tomorrow, have a great weekend, everyone. I've got a nice long weekend, so I am going to enjoy it. Thank you very much. May the 4th be with you. Have a good day. Thanks. Bye-bye.